Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be creating some one-layer wonder cards using the Dandelion Messages May 2021 Simon Says Stamp Card Kit of the Month. We're going to be creating a couple of cards and matching envelopes. One-layer wonders means they are basically, if not completely, a one-layer card. The yellow card is going to be a little bit different as far as it does have a layer, but it's all flat. We're going to start with the yellow card and envelope. In fact, the envelope does come in the kit. This is a lemon chiffon A2 sized envelope. And I have one of the images from the Dandelion Messages stamp set in my MISTI. Now, what makes this technique work is using a MISTI or some sort of stamp positioner tool. You really need it in order to be able to keep adding color to your stamped image and re-stamping it. I am doing this in a couple of ways today. You can totally pick whatever works best for you. Tombow markers, however, are so fantastic for this technique. If you like getting a multicolored stamped image with a single stamped image. This is not a layering stamp or anything like that. It is a single stamped image. All of the dandelions in this 6x8 stamp set are, but you want multiple colors on that dandelion. Tombow markers are a great way to go. And this goes for any kind of image like this. I love my Tombow markers, but I like layering that color on. So you'll notice that for the stems, I did a couple of shades of green. I have the colors listed across the top of the screen, as well as you can find that information on my blog. And then after I have the color laid down for that, I'm building the color with my dandelions. I will definitely say, as I worked on these cards, I got more comfortable with the layering, meaning that this was kind of more of a trial and error with this one. I loved how the envelope turned out. I'm going to do the same thing then for my card to have it coordinate. And I'm really loving embellishing my envelopes. I know I've talked about that a lot lately, and I have heard a lot of feedback from you guys where you like it. I know a lot of you who have signed up for my Mail It Monday series, which there is a link in the description box below this video, and have received a card from me. A lot of you have gotten some cards, more of the recent ones where I've done coordinating envelopes. I know not all of you have. I have so many past cards. I am working on getting those out to you guys. So for the card portion of this project, I did stamp and emboss a sentiment. Our friendship means the world to me, using clear embossing ink and heat embossing with gold embossing powder. I'm making sure my heat tool is good and warm, and then I heated up the back of the panel and then the front, and you can see that that kept the warping to a minimum. That's going to be really important because I am going to be stamping a fairly large image, that same image we used for the envelope right here on the lemon chiffon cardstock. I do want to mention the lemon chiffon envelope and cardstock and stamp set are all from the kit. Now I'm taking some Post-it tape, and I actually cut it in half, or not quite half. I just used my scissors. It's not perfect, and I'm masking off the sentiment. And the reason is I want that sentiment not to, or I don't want the stems of the dandelions rather to interfere with the sentiment. I want them to be above and below, but not over the top. Because I stamped and embossed it, you really could, and the embossing will resist this ink, but I just didn't want any lines going through the text, so I masked it off instead. I have inked up the stems then first, and then I'm going to work on the flowers. One of the things I found worked the very best is coloring in small areas and stamping them individually, and also layering the color. You're going to notice I stamp only 1 or 2 dandelions at a time, and then, or I ink color on them and then press it down in place and move on to the next one. I've started with my lightest color, which is that peach color. I know it's called peach. On the yellow cardstock, I really find it looks like a nice light yellow. That is my base color for each dandelion. The color mostly is concentrated towards the outer edges. You'll really notice that on my second card. You can always spritz the image with a little bit of water. I would suggest a mini mister over a distress sprayer, as it gives a super fine mist if you want a little bit more of a watercolored look. I tried both ways, and it really just kind of depends on the look you're going for. It's definitely not going to have the crispness that just using the markers will. And ultimately, I think I decided my favorite was kind of stamping each image, pressing it down so that the ink didn't dry right away, and then moving on to the next one without a lot of water. If I needed a little bit of water, I would usually do that at the end, where I just spritzed it and pressed it down once. And that's going to give it a little bit smoother look, maybe a little bit more of a watercolored look. So the next color was that light orange, and then I'm finishing with my darkest color. In this case is yellow gold. That's that center color, kind of a brownish tone to it. And we're simply just repeating this as many times as needed to get the look we want. I know it looks super messy right now. I am using this great Stamper's Secret tool to help press the lid of my MISTI down and get a really good stamped impression each time. And you'll notice I am adjusting the image every single time, making sure it's in the same place in my MISTI so that it's not shifting. This is why using a MISTI comes in so handy. I've decided that that lightest color out at the edge is not showing up super great, so I'm kind of going back with my light orange and adding a lot more light orange out towards the edges. This works especially well for the yellow chiffon background. For the white background, I'm not going to do this, since obviously the lightest color will show up more. There you noticed I spritzed this with a mini mister and stamped it just to kind of smooth out the color. I removed my mask, and there is my beautiful background with the lovely sentiment, not interfering at all with the design. It's still very legible. I did take the hearts from the stamp set, and I'm going to color them the same way in shades of yellow and stamp those right on the background, 2 up high, and then we're going to do one kind of at the tail end of the word friendship. Something else really awesome about this stamp set is there are a lot of different sentiments. So you aren't kind of, pigeonholed into having to create a certain style of card. There's a lot of, I want to say kind of encouragement type of greetings here. I'm going to read some of them. Thank you for thinking of us, sending you peace, missing our chats, thank you for thinking of me, the friendship one I'm using, dreaming of you, you are so lovely, hopeful for the sun, text me, I'm always here for you, call soon, things will get better, I promise, and with sympathy. I personally really liked the friendship one. It works great. My Mail It Monday recipients, someone will be getting this card. I do a lot of the friendship style cards with that series. And so I always am looking for that. So that's where one of those is going. And then my second card, actually, which you could, swap those. You could use any sentiment. I'm doing a sympathy style card just because I think the images work really well for a sympathy card. And I like having those on hand and not having to make them when I need them. I know I talk about that in a lot of past videos. But when the situation arises, like I have all the supplies out, and I generally like to make more than one card just because if I have the supplies out, I already have all these markers out, I have the stamps in my MISTI, why not? So I went ahead and did a sympathy card because I think that's really beautiful here. I did die cut this panel down to a smaller rectangle, so that's where it's not quite one layer, but then I'm going to put some glossy accents over the hearts, let that sit and dry while we work on our second card. So beautiful Dandelion Messages card with matching envelope. Let's go ahead and create our second envelope. I have no idea why I was doing envelopes first, other than the fact that I am loving decorating my envelopes. One thing about this, it might seem like it's a little bit time consuming coloring in all the different elements for the stamp and stamping them each individually. It really doesn't take that long if you don't mess up. I did mess up a couple times with the yellow card and had to start over. I hate doing that, but I did. But these were all created in maybe a couple hours at the very, very most. It did not take me long at all to make either of these cards and matching envelopes. So I'm using all the same colors, this time on a white envelope and white cardstock, both from the kit. And I'm loving how it looks on white. So I know I did the first one on yellow because I always think it's really interesting to see how the markers look on a colored cardstock. I don't think that that's our first thought when we go to color something, is coloring over a colorful cardstock. And for whatever reason, I have been obsessed with yellow for the last couple, or probably more than couple, last few weeks. I love yellow. I've been doing a lot of yellow cards. And so when the yellow cardstock came in the kit and the yellow envelope, I thought, let's see what we can do with that. And I love how it looks. But I just think it's really interesting to see how it looks on the white as well. Same images. The only difference here is I'm using the individual dandelions instead of the single dandelion image. This means you can really build whatever kind of border, image, background, whatever you want to call it that you want here, which is really, really nice. So for instance, for the envelope, I don't want to have 5 dandelions. I'm going to just do 3. It's going to take up a lot less room. You could totally have done this for the other card as well, so that it maybe didn't have as many dandelions on the front. Just another way to create an envelope. So I started with 2, and ultimately I decided to go ahead and do a third. You will notice I did use a little water there. I did recolor in the stem. I'm using a microfiber cloth to remove any of those water, ink, all of that good stuff. Let's go ahead and take one of the smaller dandelions and place that out there on what will be the left side of the envelope. I am doing it upside down. I did start with stems for whatever reason here, always. Then we're going to do the dandelion, peach first, light orange next, and finishing with the yellow gold. I'm going to spritz it with water and stamp it one last time to get any of that extra ink. And I don't feel like the stem was very good, so I did color that one more time. Okay, there is our envelope. Again, I love how it turned out. I think it's very, very pretty, nice and subtle, and gives the recipient an idea of what they're going to be getting inside of this pretty envelope. Now I need to figure out where my sentiment's going to go for this, because it is going kind of in the lower right of my card. And I want to do something kind of similar to what I did on the previous card, where I stamped the sentiment and mask that area off so the stem isn't going through anything. We're going to stamp this with a black ink. I'm using VersaFine ONYX black ink. And we're going to stamp Sending You Peace. I'm also going to stamp with Sympathy, but we will do that in a little bit. I'm going to create my mask. It only has to really go over the word peace. And we're going to start with our individual dandelion images. So for this one, we will be switching out each stamp. After doing the individual stamp for the first card and envelope, I felt like this got a lot easier and I was a lot quicker at stamping it. Just make sure that your image is in the same place in the MISTI each time. So if you have to adjust it, please do so. And here's where I'm really coloring in those outer images with that peach color, which they call it peach, but I really think it looks yellow. I don't know. Then this is the light orange color. And finally, our yellow gold. So pretty. All right, let's clean that and grab our next image. I'm really loving building exactly the kind of background I want here. Starting with the stem, this is the one where part of the dandelion is blowing away. I like that too. Outer edges with our peach color. The stem is light olive and sap green. I really loved the light olive, but for a little bit of shading, I added in the sap green, which is a little bit brighter green, and I ended up just loving that color combination. Finishing the center with a little yellow gold then. And so pretty. I love these images more than I thought I would. And I'm very excited. This project is actually completely different than the second project that I will be sharing with this May card kit from Simon Says Stamp. That will be coming up a little later this month here and on the Simon Says Stamp blog. There's so many different things you can do with this amazing kit. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of the pattern paper included in the kit, a little bit of the die included, and all of that good stuff. So stay tuned for that coming up later here in April. I decided to keep all of my dandelions to the left of the sentiment. Briefly, I considered stamping one over on the right, but I'm really glad I didn't. I think it looks a lot better this way for this particular card. But consider using these individual images even paired with the larger image. Let's say you want to do maybe a landscape style card and you want to cover the entire bottom border with dandelions. You could totally fill in with some of the individual ones and give it a completely different look. Or maybe you want to do an all over dandelion background stamped where they're not lined up like they are on the cards I'm sharing today. You want to create an all over background. The individual dandelions will be so fantastic for that. Here is the dandelion that kind of leans to the left. I did the leaner to the right for my first one. And I got really quick at this after doing so many of these. And I think one of my favorite things about this technique is the imperfection, that no two are going to end up looking exactly alike. And I love the multicolor looking images out of a single image. And then let's do this last little short one over here really fast. And then we're going to finish the sentiment. And I did alter the sentiment a little bit too, so I definitely wanted to share that. The with sympathy is actually 2 lines of text, but I thought that looked not quite right with the design of my card. And so I'm going to alter it into being 1 line of text, and I'm going to show you how I did that very, very easily. Again, using a stamp positioner tool like the MISTI makes that extremely easy to do. One idea if you want to do that is you can always cut apart your sentiments. If you want to, you can cut them apart and line them up. And here you can see I considered putting some more dandelions, but ultimately I just didn't think I liked how that looked. I thought it looked a little too busy. So I am going, but instead of cutting mine apart, so back to my sentiment, sorry. I don't love cutting my stamps apart. I will do it in a pinch or if it's just really the best solution, but if I don't have to, I won't. And so I like to always share how I don't. So we're going to line up the word sympathy first. We're going to find the perfect placement for that and we're going to line it up. I'm going to make sure it's lined up in my MISTI right where I want it to go. And then I am going to mask off, actually using that same Post-it tape that I used for masking off my sentiment for the dandelions, but we're going to mask off the word with, ink up sympathy, and then remove the mask and stamp that right on the card. And there were a couple kind of light areas, so I'm just going to replace my mask, ink it up again, and restamp it. And now make sure it's completely clean. Get that really good and clean. And we want to line up the word with right in front of sympathy. I'm sorry my head is in the way. It's so important to get it lined up because you want it to be seamless. You want it to look like it's meant to be that way. And so I worked really hard to get that lined up perfectly. And now we're going to mask off the word sympathy while we ink up the word with. Remove our mask and stamp that right in front. And look at that. Perfect. I love how it looks like that is just how the sentiment is supposed to be. I'm going to place this on a white top fold card base and my cards and envelopes are all finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these cards and envelopes featuring the Simon Says Stamp May 2021 card kit called Dandelion Messages. The supplies I use to create my cards and envelopes are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Simon Says Stamp products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.